I believe the air hose, the trip pin on that caboose sometimes hangs up on the scale air hose of the tangent hopper car. I believe it's a tangent hopper car. It looks like this turnout may have switched back. Have to keep an eye on that. Okay, so we'll leave these cars just clear of the main because I will have to replace the 3 Frito-Lay cars, and to keep all the coupling and uncoupling points in this area so our crew doesn't have to wander all over the city, a town, to perform the coupling and uncoupling maneuvers. I'll pull these cars here. One thing I try to do is keep in mind where any ground crew is and how the ground crew gets around. So I imagine he'd be riding on the back of that boxcar now. Or perhaps he'd be jumping on the tank car right now, since that's the joint that he'll have to break. Once we stop here on the runaround track. And he would jump down, pull the pin, hop back on the tank car for a ride back to the yard track. Once we stop here, he would jump down, throw the turnout, climb back aboard the tank car. Until we reach these cars here, which we'll stop just short of. Let him get off, line up the couplers, couple them together, join up the air hoses, and I imagine he would stay on the ground as the train pulls past. Then he may climb aboard the caboose now while we're moving at a slow speed. To save him the 50 or 60 feet he would have to walk. As we spot the cars on the yard track here. I believe that's all the work we do for the yard track. Since we're not going to go back there, that's why we put those cars in the clear. Now we run around the international paper box cars so we can spot them. Once again, the crew would jump down, throw a turnout, and since it's only walking 60 feet or so here, he may choose to walk over to the boxcars, or he could climb aboard the locomotive. So we'll slow down for him. Oh, he would stay in the locomotive because we have to throw a turnout over here. It's a light engine move, so we can move pretty quickly and stop pretty quickly. The crew jumps down, throws a turnout, jumps back aboard, so he'll be in the right spot to couple up to these boxcars. stop with 3 to 5 ties in between the cars, coupled together. No need to make the air hose connection since we're going to be dropping these cars off. But he will climb back aboard the box cars as they roll by, so he can then throw this turnout. Since I pushed those cars further back, I don't have to worry about coupling onto them and pulling a whole string of cars. So now we'll shove these cars to the International Paper Building. We'll pause here for a moment while the crewman throws a turnout. And once again, I don't know if it's prototypical, but because we'll be entering the building, I will stop the train before I enter the building and let the crewman walk ahead. Maybe talk to some supervisor inside to make sure everything is clear. Ring the bell, let everyone know that we're coming inside. Maybe a couple of horn blasts. One thing I should have done was, just like at the Frito-Lay plant, I should have uncoupled the cars in their delayed position before they got too far inside the plant, because it's a little difficult to get my fingers in here. But we'll see what we can do. With the cars spotted, we will return to pick up the rest of our train. Since we're clear of the building, we can turn the bell off. We'll stop here so the crewman can jump down and throw that turnout for the main. I'll just double check that one. Presumably he would climb back aboard for the short trip to pick up the rest of the train that was left back here on the main. He may be walking along the locomotive walkways now, possibly even through the caboose, so he'll be on the right end of the train. Or he may have walked that distance on the ground before we started the move here, after we threw that last mainline turnout. Leave a couple of ties in between the cars before we move at speed step 1 to couple up to the rest of the train. As soon as that coupler is engaged, we'll stop. He'll connect the air hoses, move at speed step 1 until the rear of the train is moving. Since we have a good joint, I presume they may stop and do an air test, make sure all these cars have sufficient air. Once anyone is satisfied that's done, we can proceed out of town and back to a staging area. Now, before we leave town here, should take care of some paperwork. Ideally, if I was thinking about it, I would do this as I was making set-outs. But I wasn't thinking about it, so I didn't do it. What we did is we pulled this C&O car. And while this isn't a great practice to lean cards up against their cars, it is a pretty decent way, really, I think, to sort them out temporarily. And the reason it's not a good way, a good practice, is because if you need to move this train, all these car cards will go along with it. DNTS, this UBLX we have in our train now. Pennsylvania covered hopper. GATX 606 is now spotted at the Frito-Lay 2. We'll put this here. GATX 42884 is here. Rail box goes in the in spot. Remember, this is the inbound row. This is the hold, and then there's the outbound row. We have Norfolk and Western and International paper, and Boston and Maine. Both of these cars can go in the International paper, the top row. And these two coil cars are going to stay at G2, or I'm sorry, they will stay here. Now, with all the car cards accounted for, this D2I is back here. I can pick them up in order, so the first car is the first card. That keeps everything neat and tidy. This is the yard pocket. Our train pack will be these few cars, and I left the caboose cards. I may not have made any for this train yet. We'll clip those together. So we'll stand up temporarily here. Can't put that on the track because it's metal. It probably could because it's painted, but we won't do that. And what we'll have to do is cycle the waybills. So all these cars are ready to be spotted once the spot is available. Rail box is in. The car that was on hold now will move to the outbound. This is the car that we just spotted. We can move that. Now we'll leave this up here for now. The next train that comes through will move all the cards down. These two hopper cars were in hold. Now we'll put them on the outbound so the next train can pick them up. We will leave these cars here because they're Gertie cards, and the only cards that we're going to deal with are the Frito-Lay, the Team Track, which we didn't have any cards, and the International paper. So once we have everything in order and we've advanced all of our cards, now we can continue on and leave town. And this will end this train's job. And what we'll do is we'll stop it on the passing siding on the other end of the basement. Another way to handle this this train would be to push it back to the yard, which I've seen a prototype do. Back up quite a ways with the caboose leading. But to simulate a Fremo type operation where there would be a through train, we'll just continue this. Whoa. This caboose may be a little bit light in weight. May have to work on that. I think this tank car derailed again. Once a tank car or once a car derails 3 times, it's time to place it on the rip track and find out why it's derailing so often. It could be the track work. It could be any number of problems. The wheel gauge, the car weight. So if a car derails 3 times, it gets put into the rip track. If any car derails 3 times in the same place, it's time to stop and take a look at that section of track to see just why trains are derailing there. I'll move these car cards over somewhere else so I can really stop the train anywhere along this stretch of track. It's essentially a long passing siding, but it can also be used as a staging yard. And what I'll do is, to keep the visual separation, I'll stop it behind this Revco building, so it's mostly out of sight. And the other reason I do that is to keep the train off of that duck under over there, just in case my head or back knocks that knockout, the lift out section. It doesn't destroy any of my models. So since we're stopped, we'll turn off the headlight. Sometimes I like to press F8 to mute the sound, and because there are 2 units consisted together, only one of the units goes mute. Don't know exactly if that's a setting for the NCE Pro Cab or if that is just the way it is. So that is everything that train will do. Everything on this end, this side of the main line, has been switched. Everything that's possible has been switched. Now the next train that will operate will be the Gertie Switcher, which will service all of the Gerstenslager industries.